Hello and welcome to the Echo Chamber podcast. My name is Tony Groves and we are talking a little bit love-hate, but we ain't going to go all love-hate, lads. It ain't all love-hate. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and the man who fancies himself as a hard man. But not since this fella has arrived, I have to say. He's a lot quieter now.
Nate's just a character.
More importantly, we're delighted to be joined in the Tortoise Shack by writer, award-winning actor and activist John Connors. John, cheers mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to kick us off because there was something that I touched on just before we came on air, and I said that when we were interviewing Owen O'Brien a while back, he made a point to me when we were talking about the housing crisis and how it was affecting all the stratas of society. And I'd said, I came up with these 4 solutions that I borrowed stolen from Mel Reynolds' idea, an architect, and these are things you do. And Owen shouted at me, he said, we have to be more ambitious than that. He said, more important, you never mentioned the people who are really left behind. And there was 2 categories, he said, Martin, if you remember. Yeah. People with disabilities and travellers. Mm. And he said, of the worst affected of the cuts in the austerity, they were the people. And yet, let's be, single mothers got a terrible going, and they really did. I'm not going to lessen anybody else's struggle, but it was a real eye-opener for me. There was Owen O'Brien who nearly, he embarrassed me on my own podcast,
He's a sound fellow as well. He knows what he's talking about.
He does.
Yeah, traveller accommodation was cut by, I think, 94%. And traveller funding overall in any sector was cut by 90%.
Jesus.
So it hit very, very... And even, I wouldn't even say back then there was... The funding that we had still wasn't adequate, I didn't think. And anyway, it didn't matter. It doesn't really matter, actually, that it's been cut because it doesn't get spent anyway. Mm. That's really... they've sent back hundreds of millions in the last decade or so. I think... Last year, I think they might have spent 20 or 30% of the traveller funding they had in place. Maybe that, and that was the highest probably ever they've ever spent. Loads of councils regularly, year in, year out, do not spend any money whatsoever on traveller accommodation and all the budgets they have for travellers. So I think the more kind of disturbing thing is the fact that they won't spend it, and it's either for one or 2 reasons. One, because they're either just incompetent, which we know they are anyway. All the councils all across Ireland, they're all incompetent. All the councillors, that's just the culture. Or it's just deliberate discrimination, which I also know. So I think it's just both of them. You know what I mean? So
I have to go with you. I think it's, and we saw it in Carrick Mines, we saw it out across the road.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at that and you're thinking, that's allowable. If it was the other way around, it'd be better off the streets and they'd be allowed to.
It would. Well, you can imagine, if you look at that, 11 people were burnt to death, and the family of those 11 people were not allowed to move into a council field, and the locals protested against it because they were worried about property prices, and that's really what it was, because I was the first person there after all that happened. We started doing a documentary, I Am Traveller, early because of that happening. And we were on the ground, and I was asking people to get on camera, they wouldn't get on camera. Because I had referred to them as Nazis or Nazi-like. Okay. And then one of the neighbours we actually bumped into said, I was so offended by that because my mother's German. I said, well, at least get on the camera here and we'll talk about it. I tell you what, I said, we'll do it in a way, it'll be a 2-shot so we can't edit it. If you think that I'm totally against you and biased, it's a 2-shot and we can't edit them. No, they wouldn't get on. So what they ended up doing was moving them right next to a former dump. And then in the middle of electrical pylons that the local estate a half mile down the road has been saying is causing brain cancer to a lot of people in the estate for the last 20 years. So they put them right in the middle of that. And when we were there, their clothes were being eaten by rats and piss was all over and all this kind of stuff. So if you're going to treat people who lost 11 people like that in one of the worst tragedies this state has seen, you know what I mean? Where do we stand if those people are being completely dehumanized? Where do we go from there? Sometimes it feels hopeless, to be honest.
Well, travellers were travel accommodation was bottom of the ladder before austerity. I mean, austerity. I mean, the boom, the bust meant none for travellers. It never changed. And it did for not just for travellers. A lot of people in Ireland never felt the boom. No. The bust is just another ongoing thing that they go with all the time. Yeah. But there was no money spent on travel accommodation. No. And now it's in the priority list, it's down at the bottom.
I think in 1996 they were ordered, the Irish government were ordered to build, I think something like 3,500 sites in 1996. I don't want to get definitely less than 50 anyway they built since then. definitely less than 50. Because the whole idea is still going back to assimilation, which was the official policy, government policy on travellers for a long time, is to actually assimilate them and to reintroduce them into the settled culture, because they believed that we were once displaced by the famine and whatever, which is total fabrication, lies, and we actually blew all that over.
I don't think, and I hate to question me, but I don't think that even matters whether it's a fabrication or not, because the simple fact is, your culture.
Of course, but that's how they justified it. They justified it by going, we're just re-assimilating them, we're not forcing them to do something. We're doing what's for their own good to save them from their itinerant habits, which is an exact quote from the 1963 report on itineracy, and to find a final solution to the itinerant problem was another one. Charlie High, So it goes way back. Our sort of like, the oppression we experience is sort of unique to us because there's a history to it in the last 100 years, and it's been ingrained in people over and over. You know what I mean? So, but again, going back to what you're saying, travelers are not the only people being oppressed. There's many different groups and minorities, and that's what the last few years I have been, reaching out to all different groups and try to speak for more than just where I come from, because I think we're more powerful together in solidarity. And I don't want to, there's no such thing as equality unless everybody's equal, so I care for more than just my people. So I think we should be all kind of coming together, raging against the machine and realizing what's actually happening, Yeah,
I think there was a great, I mentioned Lynn Rowan wrote a piece, it was in the Irish Times, and she said that when she talks about class discrimination, Leo Varadkar thinks she means communism.
Yeah, he would.
And she pointed out, that she said that these people have choices, and they say, they make bad choices. They say bad choices. That's all nonsense. Because when you're in poverty, what choices do you have? Yeah. And even if you have choices, they tend to lead you isn't
that what it's about though? Isn't that what it's about? That if you're in a certain position, a certain economic class, you have way less choices.
Yes, that's
what we're talking about. So then that's unequal.
And this is in the face of a government who has set their stall at what they call a republic of opportunity, which is obviously just a branding exercise, and there's no actual, reality doesn't play out on that. But when we talk about it in a climate of 10,000 people homeless, 3,500 children of those,
but they came in with this cynical, social welfare fraudsters. That's where he pitched his tent. That's where he was going with all of this.
Yeah, well, we know who he is anyway. He's just a class as Westbrook cunt. And look, he's not disguising it anyway, and we know who he's for. The thing about that man is, I don't know, he's a conservative or whatever, Fine Gael ultra conservatives or whatever you want to call them. And then he goes against gay adoption, he's kind of a self-hater. There's so much, even that thing, there's so much to him. He admitted being corrupt in Washington with Trump that time, admitted basically we done a little deal to make sure that the Planet Mission didn't go for something that was going to stop
a wind farm,
even this, and he licking up to him after calling him a misogynist and a racist and blah, 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 blah. And there he was, just kissing up to him. What was beautiful though was in New York. I was in New York at the time. He was in New York a few days after he kissed fucking Donald Trump's arse. And he had to go to a dinner where your man, was it the mayor?
Mayor de Blasio.
Yeah, where he introduced him, not Taoiseach of Ireland, blah, blah, blah. There you go. And then he introduced Jerry Adams as a monumental hero, and with the proclamation, and christened it Jerry Adams Day. Well, that was the day to just kill me and let me go to heaven that day, because I was so happy. And looking at his fucking face, and he trying his best to go along and be cool about it and clap, but it was killing him inside. This man he calls a terrorist.
And the best part, did you see when someone put a camera in his face and said to him, do you think you'd have a Jerry Adams Day back home? And he said, no, it's not our tradition to name days after people. He said it on St. Patrick's Day. He actually said that on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, man. But that was beautiful. Sometimes you lose hope in the world, but moments like that, seeing moments like that, I think, there is karma is a bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You've lost hope, John, of getting funding for a piece that you want to do. And this is a never-ending story here, trying to get
it. It is. I'm trying to figure out what the crack is with me. I think, I don't think my politics helps me anyway. I don't think being a traveller helps me. I don't think the content of the stuff that I'm trying to get out there helps either. And, in regards to the film board, I don't even know if it's a deliberate bias they have. Maybe it's an unconscious bias, because they come from a certain background, and I think the stories that get presented to them, that they can familiarise themselves with because they come from the background, makes them feel comfortable and maybe more accessible. And maybe what I'm approaching them with is just kind of, they just don't get it because they don't, it's just a different culture.
You're what we see on TV, what we hear on radio, we see it's the comfortable classes. It's them depicted. But working class stories are every bit as valid, every bit as good. Yeah. The community is a different type of community to middle class. There's much more cohesion in a working class community. It's
more community.
More
community. And community is like is one of the last kind of remnants of Gaelic Ireland. Like, that community that goes back, people kind of looking out for each other. The one thing is about this country is we talk about everything except for class. It's the one thing. The one thing, I think the last kind of great public figure that talked about class and criticised the system that we have in this country was Brendan Behan. I really can't think of one after that because it's the one thing everybody kind of shushes about. And it doesn't get out there. I say it in nearly every interview, and a lot of times you just cut it.
Well, we have a big problem with that because too many people actually, if you ask them, will identify as middle class, whether they're working class or not. We have this, because it's drilled down from above, because it becomes this, it's an individualist thing, it's a consumer-driven society where you can turn around and say, to a taxi driver and accountant, and they'll both identify as middle class. And when you have that where people don't, and it does become a dirty word because it is. We talked about.
Martin, you start. Mean by middle class? I wonder what do you mean by middle class? What is middle class?
Ask them, they won't define it.
But the reality is anyway that the middle class, the working class, there's not much between them, and they have a lot in common, but you don't see it that, or people don't see it that way, or they're divided within themselves because there's a big jump between that to the elite ruling class who are ruling us. They're the really wealthy ones who are controlling the country.
Well, there's even a gap but there's a buffer in between.
But then I know, but some people can identify as lower middle class. You know what I mean? And then, who are, I don't know what I am then. God only knows. I think I came from a social welfare class family. You know what I mean?
But if you work, you're working class. And that's regardless what you work. If you work, you're working class. And to me, the difference between working class and middle class, what they think is portfolio focus. Can you make money that's not made from work?
Didn't Vracker say something on class? It's not about the money. It's something cunty anyway.
But I know when I look at I know he made this big speech about the son of an immigrant and becoming the Taoiseach, but at the same time he's son of a doctor and from Castleknock, so
he's an Indian father.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you looked at the Indian class system that was left over by the British, the 5 Creed class system, his father's at the top of the pile, the anglicised Indians who control the country now still. So that's very clear where that's the background his father came from.
But I do know the caste system in India is completely still an imperative to people with social mobility. There's
but even he's only
But social
he's the figurehead for Fine Gael.
Yes.
They're Fine Gael have, what they're like, the right-wing, hardcore people. He's we have Brian Hayes in here. Brian Hayes, they want to sell him as the visionary, as an aspirational figure. But he wasn't elected into where he was. He gerrymandered his way in. So he's just a media thing. He's not, he's not the grassroots. He's not them. They're worse. They're far worse.
But the one thing is that they need more to be even getting. I know you get 90% of the vote. They still need working class votes. I actually know working class people to vote for.
You will, yeah.
For Fine Gael. Maybe because the conservative side, the values versus their own economic interests. Well, it still baffles me.
I don't know. Because your father voted him. Your father's fixed the potholes. We've got to get past that now. We just so got to get past it. And Brendan Ogle was sitting here and we were talking about it. And it's like, there's this big space where there's nobody in this space. Nobody's occupying this space where most of us are. Yeah.
Well, there's some different, I don't know, there's people talking about new parties and maybe that's the solution. I don't know. I'm not sure because to start a new party, I know Ogle and I think is involved in that and whatever. Like I give fucking thumbs up to you lads because they're great people. But to start a new party, that is a huge, huge undertaking. And what to have this manifesto that's a left-wing manifesto, go to people before profit, that's a left-wing manifesto, you know what I mean? Like, and Sinn Féin is a left-centre or whatever. Like, you're gonna get, and Sinn Féin then have, a huge history, they're the biggest party on the island, huge membership and a lot of money and infrastructure. Where are you going to compete with a party and that? You know what I mean? So I don't know if a new party is, and it's not a criticism of the lads.
No, it's not.
I think part of the biggest problem is that you're the parties are there that would definitely better the people and working class people if they were to form government. But most people are not informed and they're not having the option because it's just being swallowed up by propaganda and by RTE. They're not getting a chance. Like the last elections, we really even saying Sinn Féin and people for profit on RTE News. We've barely seen it. There was like a blackout.
Do you remember there was an argument about whether even Jerry Adams would be invited to one of the leaders' debates?
That's fucking crazy.
So when you think about that was where we were. We were literally at saying, we will have Billy and Jack and no one else can get in. Now we still have that close shop. We know what goes on in I&M. We know, they're, and that's not to say, again, there are good journalists across the spectrum, but that doesn't matter if the actual monolith is controlled and there's editorial control, whether it's invisible editorial control or they're stealing bloody data or whatever they're up to. If that sort of stuff is going on, and then you have to face facts there that our leader currently he met Dennis O'Brien in Davos. That's a matter of record. We don't know what they discussed. We know all of these things are going on at a high level, but getting that across to, as you said, activating people who aren't informed. Activate the guy who say you're actually voting against your own interests by continuing to vote the way your dad did or your granddad did or whatever. That Brendan was right when he said it needs to change.
Well, I had this fella on Twitter there a while back, and he was Fine Gael youth, but he was also on the council of Fine Gael, and
Twitter, that's that place full of intellectuals.
Oh yeah.
Oh
well,
God,
we're on it.
Please
so
kill me.
It's not.
I'm on it, and it's a daily struggle.
But he was saying to me that he had listened to your pal Brendan talking about banks. And he said, "I'm a free market capitalist. I'm devoted to free market." I'm going, we're paying a debt. You're going to be paying it till you're an old man. There's no free markets. And he's going, "Oh well, I'd have made the banks pay." He goes, nationalising banks or paying their debts, that's a socialist thing. And I went, you do know who nationalised the banks? Who made us pay the debt? It wasn't the fucking socialists. It was your...
It was socialism for the banks and capitalism for the poor.
But there's that disjoint. And this is somebody who knows, this is somebody who should know better.
What's wrong with socialism? Like, do you like your medical card? Do you like the local GAA club or community club?
Do you like schools?
You know what I mean? School. What's so bad about socialism?
No.
Let's get some more of that stuff where people get help.
It's there's the pillars. There's education. There's healthcare. There's security. There's housing. Yeah. I mean, these are the very basics. I always repeat this, and I'm blue in the face saying it.
But we are halfway there, like, you know what I mean? Like even America, but there was some different. Every country has elements of socialism, and they're the parts that usually are working within the country.
The Americans, I mean, their idea of what socialism is compared to ours is just off the wall.
Like they thought Bernie Sanders was a fucking like out there communist like fucking Stalin, and he was pretty like left centre probably.
Well, to me,
wasn't he?
Well,
he was a moderate.
Yeah, very moderate.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, what? What are you talking about?
They do it with Paul Murphy.
Like, it's crazy, but they're Democrats are fucking right-wing maniacs. But sure, Hillary Clinton was against fucking gay marriage in 2014 or something, and Obama until 2013.
Yeah.
They're against gay marriage.
Then they visited their conscience, and you're like,
fucking hell.
No, but there's an awful element of
and they call Obama socialist, like, he was a mad radical socialist. What's Fox News? They will call Obama.
Yeah.
He was a right-wing fucking tyrant.
Oh yeah, well he killed more people
than Bush.
Yeah,
he killed more people than Bush. And the first 8 months he killed more people in drone strikes than Bush did in 2 terms.
Yeah.
And he was a left-wing socialist. Fucking.
Like, I don't know how we're going to change the system here. They're telling us that Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, I'm not going to count Labour, but Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael are in around 60%. Now, I don't believe it for a second. I think if election kicks off, you're down to somewhere around 50-50.
Yeah.
So how do we make the left group together? I mean, you did it with Apollo House. You were involved in Apollo House. You pulled a group of people together who weren't necessarily all on the same page.
I'll give the lads more credit for that anyway. I got involved in it because I just seen there was something to fucking do, because you're kind of just sitting on the fucking bench.
Yeah. Going,
what's going on here? Looking at the game and not being happy with it. So that was an opportunity to just jump off the bench and go, what can we do? Turns out it wasn't a success really. It was a flash in the pan moment, in my opinion. It did nothing. Like, and you can argue any way you want and say it did and it did, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is there are more people homeless now than before then.
Yeah.
So it did nothing. That's a fact.
I'll tell you what it did, John. What it did teach people is you can't negotiate with them.
Yeah. They went and negotiated.
But that's what it teaches you. You can't negotiate.
One of my stances on it was, like, and this is not me criticising other people, I'm just sticking by me, right?
Yeah.
I thought, and me and Terry thought it, and Damo thought it, and it's not a question with other lads, because other people were involved, had kind of different sort of commitments, and they were different backgrounds and involved in this and that, and so they couldn't go to where we were going. We were more independent. Sure, I haven't got a pot to piss in, so I have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? So we wanted to not recognise the authority of the courts and recognise a higher moral authority. Because even as soon as you start dealing with the courts, you're no longer a radical movement then.
No.
So fuck the courts. That's what we wanted to do, but that people didn't want to do that, you know. So, and then you start sitting down at the table with Coveney, which I was not involved in. I was gone by then, to be honest with you. I stepped away from it for my own reasons. Once you start sitting down at the table with that fucking sly cunt, just what's going to fucking happen? What's your fucking expectations like?
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
The man.
The cunt who fucking takes a yacht around the fucking Greek islands that you need a license to go to every island for. This cunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
well, I do know that he made a promise that everybody who was in emergency accommodation would be out of it by July last.
Yeah.
So we're nearly a year after Paris, and it's worse. It's worse
than ever.
And that was a solemn promise. That wasn't just.
I will fix the crisis of people sleeping in emergency accommodation. He said.
But at some stage, people have to be accountable, and it can't be just that. Oh, I can't do that, so I'll run on to the next department with and traveller health. You know this.
Yeah.
Traveller men commit suicide at a phenomenal rate compared to the rest of
the highest suicide rate in the world per capita of any group of people in the world, actually. 7 times higher than national rate.
And our health services, and particularly mental health and health services, completely good.
We still have a fucking gobshite attitude towards mental health anyway. We're good now at talking about it, but not quite talking about it. You know what I mean? But going back to Apollo House, maybe the legacy of Apollo House might be that someone now in the younger generation, well, hang on, that was a good idea. They did something a bit radical. Let's try something like that again, but go further with it, push it further. Maybe that might be the legacy that had created a ripple effect. Because I'd like to see another Apollo House happen, but you know, not exactly that, but you know what I mean? It's something more than a gesture.
Where we are now, with 10,000 homeless people in Rise, and nearly half of them kids,
you
know, something is going to happen, and people can't get on the property market. They've nowhere to live.
No. You see the queues of people trying to rent a fucking house, like, they're doing around the corner.
But 10,000 isn't the number. I mean, 10,000 is just the way they'll count it. The number's much bigger.
Yeah.
There's an army of people out there who can't get a foot in anywhere.
Yeah, I've tried like 6 different cousins living in the hotels and all that. And because before, what happened with Travers is that you get put to this place, this site, but such a high birth rate and somebody being born that the next generation comes along and they move there, and then the next generation comes along, there's no room for them. You know what I mean? So there's loads of young Travers now as well becoming homeless. Yeah. Because of that as well, you know?
And what you'll be told is then, you have this, Murphy, came out the other day and said, there's something happening where younger people are presenting as homeless. As if no one presents as homeless. You don't just show up and go, jazz hands, I'm homeless.
Yeah. And it's fucking Niall Boylan as well.
Yes.
That cunt. I seen him on fucking Cutting Edge.
He doesn't doesn't like me a whole lot.
He hates me. He was saying mad shit before anyway. We had one of them stupid Twitter rows. And then I just stopped tweeting him because I was only giving the cunt publicity.
That's it.
But I met him after that anyway, and then it was like, who is this man? But he had a bit of a sob story, his own story, which is a bit of a tragic story. So I really won't get into that. But he was saying cunty things like they present themselves as homeless, they're not homeless.
I know, but Niall is a right-wing shock jock. Yeah. Right? That's who he is. And that's
shock jock is the best name for him.
And that's what, all he wants to do is actually, as you said, get oxygen and actually grow a profile. Yeah. So I don't even want to I don't even say his name. Yeah. But at the same time, there's no shortage of him. There's Ivan Yates. Yeah. There's all these guys. Stop. Like, we saw you on Tonight TV3. Yeah. We know you went on. We saw how you actually.
But they're elected psychopaths. That's what Ivan Yates actually said.
He did. Yeah.
I said, wait a minute. Ding ding. Did you just admit they're psychopaths? Jesus Christ.
Elected psychopaths.
But they're elected psychopaths, John. And what about you? Would you try your hat in the ring? No, I fucking won't. because the whole system is corrupt. I don't even believe in the system.
And that's the funny part, where they want you to play their game.
Yeah, I'm not playing their game.
And if you want people to play their game, that's why we turned around, and I think I said the other day, I said, you can't change anything with fighting the status quo. You just have to build something new.
Yeah, big time.
I said, you have to build something new. I'm just, like, whether you call it anarchism or whatever you want to call it, that's the only way to get something radically done.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do, we really are trying to talk to people and say to people, wake up. Because, Catherine Murphy said, the Einstein quote, she said, you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that's insanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can't go down that road.
Don't forget, our whole system was inherited by the British, who was our colonial power, who fucking owned the country. Everything we have, every institution is based on us as well. I think there's something about that doesn't fit us either.
But we've literally, so the British left, we handed the reins over to the church. Yeah. We've handed the reins now from the church onto big multinationals and corporations. So we were continuously a client to state. Yeah. We're always like, when you were talking about the classes earlier, and I was saying, Martin, there's another buffer, because even the people in power serve the corporates or the multinationals or the big, and
but we're seeing, I tell you what, and there's a change. It's the first time, I think it's down to social media. Labour got wiped.
Yeah.
And Labour's going to be wiped.
Yeah.
And that's the first time now, we had progressive Democrats, they faded out. They weren't wiped. Yeah. Labour were wiped because they dirtied their bid with people. And social media is not social media. It's social memory.
Yeah.
Nothing is allowed to be forgotten. Nor will it ever be allowed.
Never now. Everything is recorded. Everything goes online.
And it's a game changer.
Yeah, big time, yeah. Yeah, no, the social media in general, I think, is great. Like, even, we wouldn't know about what's happening in Palestine with people being killed like that. We just wouldn't know about any of this stuff. It is a way of fighting back against the fucking corporate media propaganda, Like, even in America, they just have Fox News and whatever. If it wasn't for that, the people would be blind. But even people over there now are starting to be woke,
Yeah, well, you think in America what they did, there was a hilarious incident that Peyton Manning, the NFL quarterback and America's favourite quarterback, was having human growth hormone delivered to his home under the name of his wife. Al Jazeera broke the story, and Al Jazeera got thrown out of America.
No way.
Yeah, they were shut down.
That's madness.
And you're just saying, so you want to, and that was, but it wasn't that Al Jazeera were reporting on what ISIS were doing or what America were drone strikes. It was about American football. Don't dirty the bib of a golden child.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, so where we're just such a small country. We're a dot. And we're only a few million people, and we have, media control is so concentrated in Ireland. You've only two houses. You've RTE, and you've got the other crowd on the other side, So that's it, basically.
Well, I've said it before. The problem is not necessarily that there's two crowds controlling me. The problem is the laws in this country that you can't say exactly what you want to say.
Defamation.
And the defamation laws in this country are nuts, completely nuts.
All you have to be seen to do is hurt someone's name in what they call good company kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you're running down people like that, you can be done. And it's an absolute killer, because the simple fact is, look at what happened with Paddy Jackson. Paddy Jackson was suing the whole world for what happened. I'm suing you all.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and said, well, actually, Paddy, try sue 200,000 people who've all said this thing about you. Try it, and he all of a sudden the statement changed a week later. And the guy lost his job yesterday.
Whole new things are coming out about that case as well.
Awful things came out.
Things. Yeah, I jumped on that bandwagon anyway against them, and I just read the reports, and something was not sitting well with me. Why would she go through with this? And I definitely didn't believe him. I just didn't believe them. I really didn't. I was like, why do you hire fucking barristers that represent the child killers? And one of them was known as the greatest barrister of his generation in Britain. Geez, I must have been really worried, something to think about psychologically. So I definitely, but that's all the shit that's coming out about that, just to change something about
Photoshopping
the blood out of the sheets.
Yeah.
Do you think that was an important detail? Come on. That's fucking crazy. I told them to sue me in here if you wanted. Sue me for what? I have nothing to
I like your trainers, John.
Look at me. I think I have these tracks about 5 years. Someone fucking donated these shoes to me.
He's saying that now. He's sitting here in a 3-piece suit. He walked did. I thought it was Conor McGregor when he rolled up.
I'm after taking the monocle out of my eye. Fucking hell.
She had the Lamborghini doors on the Ford Fiesta.
But you're right, that thing of like, we do have that in Ireland, but I think we're getting that more and more now with the PC brigade. People are restricting you from what you can say and language. Like this cunt the other day on Twitter said, I'm a supporter of yours, son, but I'm a practicing Christian. This is no lies. Check out my Twitter. I think I retweeted it. I did actually retweet it and quote it. I'm a practicing Christian, so leave out that bad language now, you hear? And I retweeted them and quoted them, and I says, well, unfollow me and fuck back to church. You want to see the amount of people getting on to me over language? I get so annoyed with people over fuck, cunt, ollie, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, they just want to be offended. Everybody wants to be offended. Do you know what? They're making me feel like I'm not a liberal anymore. They're making me feel like I'm turning into a right-wing maniac. Yeah. Because the snowflakes are so fucking... But they're not even... They're saying these radical leftists.
There's a lot of people who do want to be offended. And everybody has... The great sentence is, you have the right to be offended. Now, there are lines that people do cross and they say things that are intentionally hurtful. Yeah. So if it's incitement to hatred or anything...
Someone's doing random bad language that's not even directed at you and you saying, I'm offended by that. Fuck off. I hope you are offended by it.
Well, I mean, we are Irish. It's how we speak. It's the difference between us and... I mean, you go to the States, and if you spoke in the States like we speak here, they'd have a heart attack.
So I did it. I was over there. I was in this crack fest, this Irish-American crack fest, right? And this fucking cunt went, and there was a gasp. I was in a circle. So what the fuck is going on? and Terrence said, he's the Irish-American. Don't be saying that kind of shit. I said, what kind of shit? You fucking cunt, you. And I said, what's going on? There's a really bad word over here. I called everybody cunt the whole night. Everybody hated me over it. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, actually, a funny story. I was over there, and it was just before that, and in the circle, and this one fella was like Seamus something from Long Island, and he was telling a story about love-hate. And he was like, man, there's this fucking show, man, Love-Hate, right? It's like fucking The Sopranos meets The Wire, kind of lower budget, but it's fucking amazing writing and acting, and he didn't see me, you know? I was over there for a film. And he was like, in the last season, this fucking tinker comes into the fucking story, right? And they wouldn't see it as offensive. I wouldn't even see the word tinker as offensive, you know what I mean? But some people would. But he said, this fucking tinker comes into the story, and then his fucking kid gets shot, and then he fucking gets revenge after him, but he's like a badass. And then he just looks across like that and looks at me, what the fuck? I said, yeah, alright, Terrence is laughing his head off, Terrence brought me over. Yeah. It's the fucking tinker for Lovey! And he runs away, and I was like, what the fuck, is he like, afraid or something? He went and got his Colombian girlfriend, who was like even the bigger fan.
Oh, pretty good.
And she was nice. We're fucking mad how far the show has gone, like, isn't it?
I know, it went around the world.
Yeah. You got great platform on that show, John. Give you a great
it helped me with well, what happened was I got a little bit of Z-list fame from it, and people, like the journalists, all they asked me about was politics. Like Travers. On stereotypes. So when other people were being asked...
And how could you be an actor in The Traveller, John?
Yeah, but literally that kind of crack, like. But other people were being... You have to be, yeah. Well, I think everybody's an actor anyway. But other people were being asked, would you like to go to Hollywood? And, what roles did you like to tackle? And they were all talking shite and being pretentious. And then they'd ask me, about account for Traveller crime or bare knuckle fighting. So I kind of had no choice. Then I'd respond, and then all of a sudden I'd be attacked for 2 weeks by the trolls, racist trolls online. So then I just went, fuck, I actually need to just address everything here. You know what I mean? So I deliberately then said, okay, this is who I am now. And I started doing the documentary. So like Love-Hate gave me the fame to do documentaries, and the documentaries is what I love doing, There's no egos on set or whatever.
Do you prefer that to the Love-Hate?
Doing documentaries? Yeah, like I just prefer making real things rather than film, which is more about myself. Film is about me because it's my own selfish creativity, So I love doing it, but the documentary, you're doing something, you're making something, because I choose the documentaries I do. So you're making something about something important, or did you think is important with it? And mine are not about, a balanced documentary and showing two sides of the stories. They're opinionated. This is my view. If you don't like it, like, tune off. I don't go fuck.
Is there a living in it?
No, there's not a living, not in making documentaries, no. So you have to kind of do all things. There's not a living in doing what I'm doing in general. You know what I mean? Like you get good money for a short space of time. And if you're like me, that the good money ain't lasting long, you're pissing up against the wall. You know what I mean? So Like, and then you're broke then for a month. You're like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? You're waiting on another gig. So.
You wrote Cardboard Gangsters.
Yeah, Mark came on in the end as well and worked on it as well as a writer. But yeah, like I love writing. That's what I do now. And that's what I'm going to be more writing, directing now. And that the film that got rejected that we were talking about earlier, by the film board that wrote that, I'm going to make that in June. That's a short film. It'll be about 15 minutes and another rom-com.
I'd imagine, yeah.
It's called Bless You, Father, If You've Sinned.
And here comes Jennifer Aniston in the lead,
yeah. And I'm taking my top off and all.
Somebody's going to dance down the stairs at number 10, aren't they?
So it's tackling some pretty soft issues like the generational impact of clerical abuse.
Yeah.
Told through the eyes of a heroin addict who goes back to visit his old industrial school. So the film board rejected that.
Sounds very light and fairy, yeah.
No surprise there. So I'm going to make it anyway. And I'm like, lucky enough that kind of, there's a lot of people, within the industry I've worked with, that have a graw for me and like what I'm trying to do. So people are just helping me out.
Stewart and the gang, yeah.
Like, you know, so, you know.
But if there's a billionaire out there needs to donate.
Look, if anybody hates the Catholic Church and doesn't mind a film getting mad about them, give me a shout, yeah? 20 grand will do me.
Yeah,
will you get it done for that?
I'll get it done for nothing because you decide to do it and you do it. And I can make it for 20 grand or I can make it for nothing.
The rubber bandit said something like that. They said, you know, if you want something done, attach yourself to people who do things.
Wasn't it Terry who said he just looked at his Facebook feed one night sipping whiskey and put up said, I want to make this fucking film.
Charlie Casanova.
Yeah, and he made it for €985.
Yeah, well that's, you know, that film was talking about psychopaths, me and Terry one night. Calling the politicians psychopaths.
No, hang on. But you and Terry one night psychopaths go.
Yeah. Well, there was a bottle of James in No, so we were doing the, same kind of buzz, we're on the same wavelength. But the first time that I really was ever encountered with the idea that the people that control us and the politicians are psychopaths was in Charlie Casanova, his film actually.
Yeah.
Because he was like giving me credit calling the psychopaths, and I was like, that actually came from, Charlie Casanova. And I was like, because I walked out going, shit, yeah. Fuck, they obviously are, because their actions are exactly saying that they're showing that they have no empathy whatsoever for themselves. So, shit, they technically are psychopaths. So I just continue to call them psychopaths and beating the drum, for the next 5 years, whatever, and then eventually people start listening.
I think there's 14 traits of psychopathy. I think it's either 13 or 14. And I'd imagine if you did a run through a lot of the people at certain levels in politics, they're quite high on the scale, because you have to be able to say one thing and do the other.
Yeah, and also a lot of them are very smart, which is
another trait,
a trait of the psychopath. A lot of them are very smart, and they're the dangerous ones. They are, like, Veronica is a smart dude. There's no point getting around it. He's a cunt, but he's a smart dude. I actually was in New York and I was dying to do I seen him there. And I was trying to, because he called me the Trump and misogynist, but I couldn't get near him. I was trying to get my phone out, because I was in the parade. The New York parade. I was going to go over and I would video when I went viral. I was going to go over and shout, "Is Trump still a misogynist?" and get him on video. But I think the minute he would have seen me, he would have known what the crack is. You know what I mean? He would have just ignored it.
And he's a big unit.
Yeah, he's about 7 foot.
He's a big lad.
In America, it'd be just these guys they'd have little things in their ears talking into their sleeves. And you get about 2 steps to him, just take him down.
He's about 6'4", is he?
Yeah, he's easy 6'4".
I loved the tall fellas when he used to fight years ago. I loved them, people getting intimidated by the tall fellas, they're like, oh, lovely now, you know what I mean? Because they're going to dip under the knee.
He goes in and comes up,
left hook to the body and into the shoulder blade. I would have smashed him up.
Oh, no.
He was a victim for me.
I bumped into him one day, and I mean, physically bumped into him, and I looked at him, but he was a bigger boy back then. He wasn't on the diet back then, he was, he wasn't taking care of himself. But on the wider thing, and I hate to go back to the trope, but the whole thing about the arts in this country bothers me.
Yeah.
Because they announced during the week that they're going to spend all this money on Culture Ireland.
Yeah.
And they announced it by launching yet
another.
Culture? But they announced another thing of another fucking video. Here's a video of waves and the Wild Atlantic Way and all this shit again. Yeah. And it's just the same.
I seen one of them videos about 6 months ago, or was it a year ago? And I swear to God, it was fucking shocking. It was like a bunch of not middle class, upper class people from the elite, these artists that are just, hello! Like, that's them. And they were all in the video, and it was like not one working class person. in the whole video. And the amount of great working class fucking artists we have, you know. I don't know what the culture Ireland think. What culture? What's the culture? What's the culture in this country?
Well, I'd like somebody to answer that question.
What's the culture?
People talk about cultural Irish.
I know what Irish culture was, but I know what's dying and almost dead of it. But what is the culture now that exists that it's being passed off as Irish culture? What Temple Bar sing songs, or what's the culture now in Ireland? The culture of cutting disability down, and the culture of hurting the most of society. What's the culture of ignoring your neighbour? And you know what I mean? What is the culture? What is the culture now of Irish people? I'd like to know that.
No, well, I think culture.
And the arts has been not being represented.
I think culture is an evolving thing all the time. Anyway, I do think. So whether you
are we assimilating into European culture, maybe?
And we are becoming more globalist, and that's definitely happening. But what I would also say is we have got unique characteristics, and you don't have to be Irish to gather to join the Irish culture. You can.
We're good begrudgers. That's a fact. I suppose we do have a good sense of humour. That we're good at self-deprecating.
I think we're amazing at communicating.
Oh, we are. I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree. We do have a lot of good traits, as a people, and. We're a bit sly, I think. I think we pretend to be nice.
But we kind of like the Gandhi man.
We like a bit of backbiting. We're doing a big backbite here now, anyway.
Well, the biggest problem in Ireland is that, you know, there is lots of little boys clubs and little, golf clubs and rugby clubs or whatever it is. This networking that goes on that locks people out.
Yeah.
And
well, it's tribalism. It's tribalism. It is tribal, we have tribalism. Fucking hell, it's so bad in this country. Everywhere you go, there's tribalism, north side versus south side, you know what I mean? Middle class versus working class, Cork versus Dublin, whatever it may be. We've so many little divides in our country. And that goes way back. That's why we were colonised originally, because we were a load of little kingdoms arguing with each other. I went, hang on, I'm going to side with this cunt over here, this British fella, and we let him to come over, and then all of a sudden we all get colonised. Because we just had this thing, we are a tribal society, everything about us.
But I think if I was to talk about what springs to my mind now is endemic in our society now is the ability the man wants to punch down all the time. So a fellow gets a leg up immediately, rather than thinking of getting up, he turns around and punches down.
I was only talking about that the other day. You're totally right. I was seeing it last year. There was an article I seen in one of the fucking shit tabloids. It was my uncle or something picked it up. I wouldn't buy any of them, but I seen it, and it was the second page. This Nigerian woman frauded social welfare for like $2,000 or whatever. Not too big of a deal. I'm half going fair play to her, right? That's just being honest, right? So the same week was the week that they were proposing the $6,000 pay rise for TDs.
Yes.
But this was all the fucking news. This was page 2. And then that night, it was on Niall Boylan and Adrian Kennedy. And then I'm going, the people just can't see.
No, don't see.
And people then are giving out fucking Nigerian, just all conquer and divide, man. Really, just get them all arguing about fucking traveller, fucking scumbag, fucking Ballymunner. You know what I mean? Like, this is what it is like. So we all forget the one big fact, which is we're all taking a 10-inch stick up the arse without lube. Yeah. And that's a fucking fact.
But Finnegan,
and it sums it up that we Paul Murphy in. 7 policemen, Gardaí arrested Paul Murphy in a dawn raid. And when they were doing the whole Anglo trial and going after what happened with the banks, they didn't have 2 forensic accountants in the country.
Listen to this for corruption. I'm going to tell you a nice little story. You'll probably get me sued, but don't worry. So
allegedly,
no, I tell you straight up the truth. This is the fucking truth. So the fucking this property developer comes by, right, to our camp. Now, doing my 3-part Traveller series I did, I was able to look through the history of Travellers and all across Ireland and all the different kind of patterns there was. And there was always a pattern of a property developer coming in or the council coming in and they get moved off and one way or another and backhand deals and blah, blah, blah. I've seen it happen loads of times. So when this came about, I was able to recognise very early on what was happening. So this property developer came in, and where we are now in Old Belcap Lane beside Darnhill, which is a Malahide Road address, is now starting to become a little prime little real estate thing. And of course the boom is up there. So my brother works in construction. He's lays pipes, and he's like, they can't get enough fellas to take jobs now in construction. So zoom. So this property developer comes in and he's like, gives us a pathetic fucking offer for like thinking we're just fucking idiots. And we said no. And he comes in again and we say no, comes in again, and this happens about 7, 8 times over. over the space of, say, 6 months. And we said, no. Like, we're happy where we are. We have our family around us, our grandparents, which is up to them, in my opinion. If we want to go, I leave it up to them because they're my grandparents. And plus, they're beside the shops, they're beside everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a prime little place to be. So it wasn't working. And what happened then was, my uncle got a random phone call from the superintendent in Coolock Garda Station. And the superintendent, who is unofficially on this phone call, was saying, you need to get out of there and blah, blah, blah. My uncle's like, what do you mean get out of there? So we don't have to get out of there. We're here 19 years. We don't have to leave here. And there's no injunction being made against us. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm telling you now advice for you now to get out of there. This is the superintendent of Coolock Garda Station saying this in an unofficial capacity, by the way. So we refused that. And then he came down one day, and I know him, the superintendent from Darndale. He goes around, he does a bit of community work in Darndale, and I actually thought he was a sound fella. Obviously, he's being offered brown envelopes all over the shop, so this is why he's getting involved. In my opinion, anyway. I know it to be a fact. So, he came into the camp then, and he knows me very well, and got very embarrassed when he seen me.
Yeah.
Because he was going in to kind of bully my uncle. You know what I mean?
All right,
and my uncle wasn't there, and I said, well, I don't want to hardly air podcast, so I won't say his name. I don't care about saying his name. But he came in, oh well, and his face went pure red, and knew straight away by him, like, his body language is saying he felt really uncomfortable. I was like, well, such and such, I know his name. And he says, oh yeah, just in here now. I says, well, you're in to talk to me uncle, is it? Oh, yeah, just want to have a chat. Oh, so, we're chatting about what? I says, what, about this land that we own, because we're here 19 years, that no one can move us off. And you think you're going to get in that back field, because the back field is still the same property as the property we're in. And they're thinking you can just move in there now and start doing construction, yeah. And he's like, no, well, I'm just trying to smoothen things out, man. I said, are you here in official capacity in police work? No. So you can't do nothing legally. No, I'm just trying to help. So who are you trying to help? Who are you trying to help? Who are you getting paid by? And his face was wet and red, and he jumped on or whatever. So we thought that was the end of it. And a couple of weeks went by, and this is so annoying that I wasn't there, because if I was there, oh my God. But basically, the ERU came in, the emergency response unit, came into the camp with what he made the mistake was they got a search warrant for one of the camps. There's 2 camps. But they didn't get a search warrant for my camp. Okay. Right? So that's the biggest mistake they ever made. So they came in and they put my mother down, my brothers, my cousins all down the ground, put the guns to their heads, threatened to blow their heads off. This is no lie, threatened to blow their heads off me. My mother, even if you mention it now, still starts shaking. She was shaking for 3 days. And put their heads in the puddles. And they ended up leaving. And then I went to a solicitor. That's all going to be a big deal. Anyway, that's going to be a big case out of that. But property developer comes back again then, just literally a couple of days after, thinking that was going to be enough for to get rid of us. And obviously we helped him go fuck himself, you know what I
mean? Unbelievable.
But yeah, there's corruption for you. That's a fact. That's what's happening right now with my family.
And that is your home place.
It's our home place, yeah. It's our home place. And the council put electric there for 3 years ago. We were years trying to get it, like 15 years without electric there.
15 years.
Yeah, but electric. Still don't have toilets. We have portaloos. You know, portaloos where you go.
Yeah, I know the site. I know what the site is.
Yeah. That's what we had there. But 15 years without electric, like. Yeah, so there's Ireland a corrupt country, but we do have one of the most corrupt police forces in the world, well, at least the Western world in Europe.
Well, we're seeing a tribunal there, and what came down in that tribunal last
just in the last week was explosion.
Actually, tell me about it. Constantly working on the road. What's going on?
I'll tell you what happened the last week. Before they went into to have their meeting with the Public Accounts Committee, Martin Callan sat them all down in the little coffee dock and said, I should listen, while we're all here, I might as well tell a few of you that, now this is what the John McGuinness and all are saying, that he basically told people that, John Wilson, the other whistleblower, and actually, it's funny enough, he said he took a horse off a fella, he called him an knacker, and he said,
that's right, I seen that.
And then he took a horse off him, called him a knacker, and then the other fella, sure, he's subject to an ongoing investigation for sexual abuse, and it got worse because other people are saying that he said it was his own children, that it was other people's children. I mean, it just got, and this
has to be a kick in the teeth for you, John. When the
Garda Commissioner.
Refers to travellers as knackers. But he's referring to, he's talking to politicians and he's talking to journalists.
Yeah, that's normal. I was told by a guard before, and I'll tell you off air who it is, you know who it is. And he told me that to be a guard, you have to have the discriminative beliefs towards travellers. That is a part of the culture of the Gardaí. He said it's so endemic, it is a part of the culture.
Well, that proves
That's what he said to me.
But
This is what? And he was actually admitting this. He's still a guard, this fella. I'll tell you who he is off here. He's still a guard. But it's no surprise. But here's the culture with guards in regards to the travellers and how they behave the travellers. When you get put travellers, I can't even begin to describe how much in fear travellers are of guards. You've no idea. Doesn't matter if you have tax, insurance, you have license, everything. Like a load of my family would be still in absolute and complete fear, despite having all them things. Like they're in complete fear. And guards pulls them up and guards ask them for things like, will you do this? Will you do that? Will you tell us about such a thing? Give us looking for them to rat on things. I'd say, they think, like, this is just a part of the culture, like a bribe constantly. And bribes, I'm telling you. I've been there. I've been the person where they've been asking me, do you know about anything? Do you know about anything stored in a house or anywhere? What? What are you on about? I've been asked 100 times.
It sounds like, and I know it's not the same, but it actually does sound a lot like, they talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, where people copped on to the fact that, I'm a black guy driving home. And,
discrimination.
If I see flashing lights, I'm shitting myself.
Thanks for the God you don't have guns back here. There's no travellers left. I'm telling you, we'd be extinct. We'd be fucking extinct.
Well, there was a joke went around. There was I think it was in FI. There was a bank robbery at one stage, and the guards were called, and the armed response unit went down, and shots were fired. And after they did the whole examination and the whole thing, the only people that had been injured by the guards shooting.
No.
So the next day a fella goes into the bank and he goes, give me all the money, he says, or I'm calling the cops.
That's the best way to describe them guns, because that's who they are. Fuck my life. And do you know what the funny thing is, right? Since I got a bit of fame, they've been very nice to me, the interactions I've had with guards. I'll give you one or two anecdotes. There was one where, I'm not going to say that one. But, that's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
Getting that off there. But there was another one, actually. It wasn't too long ago, and I think I meant to put up a Facebook post about this to say they're not all cunts, because these three weren't. But I was going to the States, I was going to LA for Carbon Gangsters was a screen over there, and my flight was at 5 or 6. No, 7. The flight was at 7, so you'd be in the airport
for 5. Yeah. At least traveling with the States, you'd be 3 hours ahead.
Yeah, 3 hours, so 4 o'clock. So I said, fuck it, I'm not going to sleep. So me and my friend Fergus, who said, we'll just drink. He's from Ballyfermot. I said, you go over and stay in mine. We're outside the airport. So we stayed up all night drinking. And when I say drinking, Jesus Christ, man, we got so drunk. I think we drank a bottle of Jameson, a bottle of Captain Morgan, and 24 cans, right? Slaughtered. And my friend Fergus only smaller than that. I drank most of it, like. But he was that bad. The minute he just stepped outside the trailer, he hit the ground. And I had to pick him up off the ground, scrape him up off the ground, and lift him the whole way up. But I was like so drunk, I couldn't get my head together as to how we're even going to get to the airport. I was like, how are we going to get to the airport? And he was like, I don't know, a taxi. I said, but we can't get because we can't get a taxi off the lane. You won't. As soon as you see it coming out of the camp, you're a traveller, you can't get a taxi. And like I'm a mad looking little fella anyway, you know what I mean? Never mind me being drunk, you know what I mean? Out in the road trying to fucking, it's like, basically we're fucked. But I don't know what happened. I took a notion to go to Darren, walk over just the field of Darren. It's only 100 feet. And, so I walked over. I was like, we get a taxi here. Why did you get a taxi in Darren? I think I was looking for somebody I might have known and then just squeezed me way in.
He's a big Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood, obviously. Yeah. Obviously.
Stop this car. I ask her.
Do you know me? I put this place on the map. But, so we seen these guards and they were there. And first of all, I was like, look at them cunts. They were looking out at me, you know?
Yeah.
And they were then circling around. We said, what the fuck are these circling? I was about to get aggressive with them. And then the light bulb moment went off. Then I was like, no, hang on. And they put the window down. I said, well, guards. And I said, I know what everybody says are old bastards and pigs, bastards and cunts and corrupt and blah, 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 blah. But I think some of you might be human. And they just started laughing. And I said, I'm looking for a lift to the airport. And they jumped out, said nothing. I said, shit.
Yeah.
Put the hands behind my back. I got ready to get arrested, you know? And he took me bags, they put them in the back. And brought us in. And I was just like,
fair play.
Yeah, and we jumped in and I was like, yeah, are you sure now you're not bringing me down to Kulak? And my mate was so fucked, right? They were halfway up the M32 and he was like to me, real loud. He was like, where are we going? I says, I was going to the fucking where they getting arrested, man. What? No way. When you were in a pig's car. I says, yeah. And the lads are laughing, but he's so fucked, he can only hear me. We're only in the same word. I said, yeah, man, you're at the mess and you're getting done for assault in the guard. And the guards were laughing their heads off. I said, I thought they were alright for pigs, but you wouldn't stop anyway. But, swear to God, the whole way there, got outside the airport, he still thinks we're about to be escorted in. He's so gee-eyed. He only has one eye open. Do you ever get that drunk where one eye shuts by itself? Well, he only had one eye open, and the eye wasn't great vision either. And he was probably at the smoking about 20 joints on top of that. So he gets out and he's like, oh man, not having this, man. I wanted to go to play in LA. Right? And he's trying to bargain with them. Like, he's saying, lads, please, just let me off, lads, please, I'm about to get me Esta and all, right? So he jumps out. The guards can't stop laughing. And he took out her stuff first, took out her luggage. And would you believe it? I almost don't even want to say it because it makes them in such good light. But they give us a hug each. He said, enjoy your trip, lads. I hope you have a great time.
That's fair. You gotta go.
So then we went to the airport. It's not the end of the story. We went to the airport, and my friend then, his other eyeball shut down, and we went up to check in, and basically, I fucking got a new passport, and my ESTA had been from the old passport number. Yeah. So then I was like, fucked. So then I was like drunk, trying to get an ESTA, but I had no bank card. But then the person working behind the desk was willing to give me the bank card just because they were a fan, and I was trying to get that done, but it could be 72 hours before it gets back. And then my friend got so drunk, they were like, no, he's definitely not coming on. So I sent him to get a coffee. He comes back then, and he's like, he's just not getting on. And I got refused finally, so we didn't get to go to fucking LA.
So there was no happy ending in the end.
Well, there was. It's still not over. Because I said, fuck this. I was all ready for a trip.
Yeah.
So I says, I'm going to go somewhere I never went, and I went to Amsterdam. So I went to Amsterdam the next day, I brought my cousin, and can't tell you about what happened.
We don't want it.
That's the end of that. That's definitely not political.
We'll tell that story afterwards, John.
Yeah.
John, thanks very much for coming on.
No bother.
I know you're only up the road here. And you know this area really well.
Yeah, dude, Jesus, yeah. I'm always over Ballymun and the Axes and all that.
Yeah.
It's a great spot.
You were working with a lot of young fellas up there, I believe, giving a hand out on acting.
I was there for about a year with them, doing regular sort of acting classes. And not just acting classes, kind of talking about being comfortable with themselves and creativity, what it can do, using creativity. And I just had a blast, and I was like blown away by just the maturity of them. Like, genuinely, this is not in a patronised way. Like, literally going, there's something a bit in the water here in Ballymun. Because the young fellas are just way more open-minded. There's so many artists. I think half it is that access place where you can go to, there's somewhere to go, there's somewhere happening, which is very rare to have in a working class area, have something like that. It's just never ever really get anything like that. Yeah. I'd love to see Darndale have something like that, you know what I mean? So, I love coming out this way. So.
No, I've heard that people have spoken about the acting classes that you did and the support you did with the younger people, and it's still spoken about, so it's a great credit to you, and it is, Martin's right, like we were delighted that you came over, so, thanks very much, mate.
Thank you for having me. Up the Ra.
Allegedly.
Now, when I say Ra, I mean, the sun god Ra.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we didn't have the sun, we'd be fucked. There'd be no life without sun, man.
Yeah.
That saves the cuffs going on.
Yeah.
Flashing blue lights. Right, folks, thanks for listening. Make sure you hit subscribe, leave us a review, tell your friends. Independent, listener-led content matters, folks. All our previous episodes are on echochamberpod.com. And thanks again. Bye-bye.